Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford. I'm Phil Milani, alongside Matt Boyer and Steve Atwater. Guys, yesterday during practice, we saw a new number in at middle linebacker.
Yeah, 20 out there at inside linebacker, Steve. This has been the training camp of the more you can do. You've got Justin Hollins at inside linebacker and outside linebacker. We know Kareem Jackson's trying to showcase his skills at safety and at corner. And then Jamal Carter trying to make the move possibly to inside linebacker. You know, Steve, the thing that, and you would know this better than I do, but I got to imagine shedding a linebacker is much different than shedding a 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman along the line of scrimmage.
No, I agree, and I think it's going to be a trying transition. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than he thinks it's going to be because he's played safety for a good majority of his career. I don't know what he did in high school, but when you're playing that inside linebacker position, man, your lines of vision are different, the angles are different, and obviously you have the big offensive lineman coming on you each and every play, and either you got to be able to shake and move and get around them, or you got to use your hands and be able to shed them, and we'll see which one he's going to do.
Steve, did you ever play linebacker?
No, they tried to move me to outside linebacker in college, but I was like, nah, coach, I need to run and start.
What about playing up in the box, though? I mean, we've seen
I definitely played up in the box quite a bit, and our offense, we ran the wishbone in college, and I had receivers cracking on me all the time, so I got used to, really handling the crackback blockers, making them not want to crack on me anymore. And so the physicality was there, but I wasn't playing linebacker.
Well, Jamal Carter thinks that he could be Mark Barron 2.0. Barron, the linebacker for the Steelers, but he played his first 3 years at safety. Carter says this move's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play this since high school, college. I like being in the trenches. I'm a physical specimen, so I don't like being too deep away from all the contact, so it's going to fit me.
Right now it's temporary, but if he looks good in there, it will be permanent. It's twofold. Our numbers have gotten low there, and he's always wanted to play in there, so the timing was good.
Carter is a physical specimen.
He is. He is that. I got to give him that. He's a physical guy.
He is. Vic Fangio, though, dealing with injuries all across the board. We see Kareem Jackson today missing his second practice in a row. Todd Davis missing practice. But not all bad news for Fangio because we saw Josie Jewell back out there.
Great to see him back out there. In only his second year, I think Josie has demonstrated a mastery of the defense that few inside that inside linebacker room have demonstrated. We know how hard it is to play for linebackers. Coach Reggie Herring out there. We can hear him screaming all the way up here. But, I think, Steve, that we heard it from Vic Fangio. Josie Jewell is the caddy. He's bringing guys along. He's kind of showing them the ropes. And to see him back out there, I think it's going to really help this depleted room.
Yeah, that definitely helps. It's a good thing, for one, because there are so many injuries in that linebacker room. But, two, even Josie Jewell coming along, I think he's been doing a good job since he's been in there. But, him missing that time, I think he wants to be back out there to make sure he's ready to go week one of the season. And he has this entire defense down pat. And I think this defense is a good fit for his abilities.
Joel talked about how he felt after his first practice back in action.
It feels good to get a couple reps in here and there and finally get back on the field. I hate being in there and stuck in there doing treatment all day, so it was awesome. I think it'll be good. We'll just see how the trainers see it and what they want me to do, and I'll go from there, but I'm feeling pretty good.
And Joel wasn't the only guy back out at practice yesterday. We saw your guy, Matt, Jake Butt.
Good to see number 80 out there. Love to see the Michigan guy back out onto the field. It's one of those things, too, where Steve, you don't need to see a lot from Jake because you know what he brings when he's healthy. He had a great start to last year before he went down with the ACL tear. Now with Austin Ford out, that really kind of enlarges his role a bit and really, enhances his ability to make the final 53, unfortunately, at Ford's expense.
Yeah, and, the only thing with Jake Butt is his availability. We already know that he has the ability to play if he's healthy, and that's the only thing, man. And you hate to see that happen to a guy who loves football so much, and, he's showing that by how he's working through these injuries, these very difficult injuries to come back from. he's approaching like a champ, and we're all pulling for him.
But do we really know that much about Jake Butt? I mean, we've only seen him in less than a handful of games at the start of last season. He really needs to play in a preseason game.
He needs to demonstrate that he's healthy, but I think he's been in that tight end room long enough for the coaches in the front office to know what he brings in his depth of football knowledge. I think that you need to see him in at least a quarter of the preseason, but I don't know if you need to see him much more than that.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like, all right, I'm making a decision to keep or let someone go, and I want to know that a guy is durable enough to make it, and so I would like to see him in a couple of the preseason games, actually.
Butt says that rehabbing his third ACL injury has been the hardest thing he's ever had to do mentally.
Like, I put the work in, like every single day. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to be out here more than anything in the world. Like, this isn't by choice, that I'm sitting in the training room or that I'm dealing with these little hiccups here and there. It's definitely not by choice. The work's been put in. I went 9 months without any of this. I think that's a frustrating thing to have to deal with it, but it's part of the game. It's part of recovery. I don't feel sorry for myself. I'm not going to complain. Just put my head down and work and get back out there.
Bud's talking about some knee soreness, so it'll be interesting to see how he feels today. He's back out at practice, but after putting some stress on it, see how he feels now.
Yeah, I think we're going to see how he responds, but, those injuries, you never want to rush a guy back. We've seen the same thing with Emmanuel Sanders and the Achilles. You just kind of want to ease him back gradually. You don't want to re-aggravate anything.
Yeah, but the only difference between him and Emmanuel is Emmanuel has a body of work that everybody can look back on. Jake Butt doesn't have that at the NFL level, so he needs to be on the field so the coaches know that, hey, he's going to be durable, he's going to be available, and he has the skills still after 3 ACL surgeries.
A good thing for Butt is this is a different knee. Twice on his right knee, now dealing with his left knee. Time for a quick break here, but when we come back, we'll hear from Phillip Lindsay, plus Eric Dalala from DenverBroncos.com joins us.
The best Broncos banter each and every week, that is Broncos Beat.
When we even asked him about the defensive line and where these guys slot in, he said, look, I expect everybody to be able to play everywhere.
They're all in their quote-unquote contract year. That usually means that you play at optimum level.
Catch up on all the latest storylines with your favorite beat writers every Monday evening at 6:30 on TV 20.
For Chris, quarterbacks look at him before the snap and say, okay, I'm not going that way.
Broncos Beat for the most in-depth coverage of your Denver Broncos.
Broncos fans, sign up for the Broncos Fit 7K on Sunday, September 1st. The run walk takes participants through the Sloan's Lake neighborhood and finishes on the 50-yard line at Broncos Stadium at Mile High. All participants will receive a Broncos 60th Anniversary Finisher's Medal, a historical t-shirt, and post-race entry into the Broncos Fit Expo with players, cheerleaders, and Miles the mascot. Go to Broncos7k.com and register now.
It feels good. It feels good. That's I don't even think about that no more, honestly. It's 100% healed, and so now I'm just focused on, getting back into it. That was the first game back since the injury, so it was exciting to get back there, get some rest off. So I feel a lot comfortable now.
Phillip Lindsay continuing to work his way back from a wrist injury that forced him to miss the entire offseason program, but good to see him back out there in that Seattle game.
Yeah, great job, not only in the run, but also the pass game. Took a nice screen for a first down along that left side. Good to see him back out there juking and cutting like normal.
And he rushed for more than 1,000 yards as a rookie, so good to see Phillip Lindsay back out here. We're back here on Broncos Training Camp 2019. Happy to be joined by Eric Dalala of DenverBroncos.com.
It's a thrill. About time, guys. Camp's almost over.
I'm not familiar with this publication. It's DenverBroncos.com, is it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, we just heard from Phillip Lindsay. He said in his post-game remarks in Seattle that Andy Janovich played a huge role in his reps against the Seahawks. Janovich out for 6 to 8 weeks. In comes George Aston, little-known George Aston. So talking about him, what kind of role can he have? Does this team need to have the fullback in this type of offense?
Well, it's kind of twofold. One, Vic Fangio said yesterday, hey, we can go a few games without a fullback. So if George Aston doesn't pan out the way that they hope he does over the next few weeks, then you're going to be okay. They'll be able to, maybe you put a tight end back there, maybe an extra offensive lineman, maybe you just run some sets without a fullback for a little bit. But the counter to that is you saw on Royce Freeman's run during the Seattle game how important Andy Janovich is, because he pushed that linebacker out of the hole, and that's kind of what sprung Royce Freeman's 50-yard run. We saw that last year when Emmanuel Sanders had that long end around against Baltimore. So clearly the fullback can play a huge role, and Vic Fangio said George Aston's going to get his chance, but if he doesn't deliver for whatever reason, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Janovich is one starter who's gone down. Another starter who we haven't seen at all during training camp is Todd Davis. How important is it for him to get back here sooner rather than later, just so he learns his defense?
Yeah, I think for Todd, week 1 is the goal. That's at least how I would look at it. Vic Fangio did say yesterday Todd's going to be back out here soon. Does that mean next week after joint practices with the 49ers? That would be my guess. He said they're going to work him along slowly, so I don't think you're going to see him in pads doing team drills right away. But get him ready for week 1. I mean, these calf injuries since that Kevin Durant thing happened, they're kind of like that nagging thing that people are a little bit afraid of. You see Andrew Luck dealing with it out in Indianapolis. People don't want to push the calf injuries, tear it, get an Achilles injury, something like that. So for Todd, I think he's a smart enough guy that as long as he gets some mental reps, maybe gets in there a little bit during practice, I think he's going to be okay. I don't need to see Todd Davis in the preseason before they go to Oakland in week 1.
One guy we did get to see for the first time in the preseason last week was Joe Flacco. Led a nice drive, but that was it. It resulted in some points, which was fantastic. But what type of impact did you see from Flacco on this offense that maybe signaled to you, okay, this team might be ready for when it comes time to compete for the real thing in the regular season?
Yeah, Matt, I think the biggest thing is the third down conversions. They had 2 of them, and they weren't long third downs. I think they were both 3rd and 1, but they kept the chains moving, got down in the red zone, got some points, and I think the biggest thing with Joe Flacco is that moments aren't too big for him. He's played so much football, he's won on the highest stage, that you're not going to go out there and he's not going to say, oh, what do we do in this scenario where we're down this many points or we've got to get this first down. He's Joe Cool, as everybody said. And so I think that calming presence is a little hard to quantify, but I think some of the ways you can see it is getting those third downs. Hey, if there's a busted play, it's not the end of the world. You saw Phillip Lindsay still pick up a first down there. So I think really at times over the last few seasons, the moment may have been too big for some of the people playing quarterback. I don't think that's going to be the case for Joe Flacco.
What about the player behind Joe Flacco? At least we think that he's behind him. Drew Lock, if you watch practice out there, it looks like he's taking second-team reps.
Yeah, Vic Fangio said we can go ahead and say that. He said he's not going to do it, but he said everybody else, whatever you want to do. Yeah, Drew Lock took a lot of second-team reps. At practice on Sunday, he took a ton of snaps during the game against Seattle. I think we're working in that direction. There's not really a need to rush, though, if you're Vic. Drew's obviously going to be on the team. There's no question about that. And so let's work him along at a pace that's good for his long-term development. And if that's making him the number 2 quarterback after the San Francisco game, that's great. If it's a little bit later, that's okay too. But I think the biggest thing for Drew is he looks much better than he did when we started camp a few weeks ago. And Vic Fangio said, hey, last week before the Seattle game, he took a bunch of steps, and then he showed that in the game. I wouldn't expect anything different this week because you're going to get these joint practices against the 49ers where Drew Lock can kind of see what they're doing and then go out and show it on Monday night. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he puts together a better performance than he did against Seattle.
Before we let you go here, what are some of the things that we can find on DenverBroncos.com right now?
You can find all sorts of stuff on DenverBroncos.com. There's a daily injury update. You love those.
I know you love injury updates.
Videos?
People want to make sure they know what's going on. Always got some practice observations, some photos from if you can't make it out to training camp, and then got to watch this show if you're not going to catch it live.
Exactly. All right, Eric, thank you so much. That's Eric Dalala of DenverBroncos.com. Now let's hear from Derek Wolfe, who's been very impressed with the Broncos' offensive line.
Well, obviously they have a coach, a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame player for a coach. Munch was a 10-time All-Pro player, and anytime you get a guy like that in your room, he could teach you all the different techniques. You can see the techniques of guys. If you'll beat them with a move, and then the next time you try to work that move, they stop it. So that's the sign of a good coach, and that's good coaching, and that's a sign of a good player being able to take that coaching. So I think they're doing a really good job over there.
That's high praise from Derek Wolfe, who rarely hands out compliments, but he's been going up against this offensive line all throughout camp.
Well, I think the trip to the Hall of Fame really illustrated how much of a mean streak Mike Munchak had as a player and how tough he was. And I think that garnered a lot of respect from both his guys in his room and the defensive line. So, yeah, the gold jacket definitely helps.
Yes, it does. Let's welcome Andrew Mason out onto the program. Mace, what have you seen from this Broncos offensive line?
Better cohesion, better chemistry, better communication. One thing that Derek Wolfe told me after the game in Seattle on Thursday, if you look at the 50-yard run that Royce Freeman had going behind Andy Janovich in between blocks from Garrett Bowles and Dalton Reisner, was that the two of them are communicating so well, Wolfe noted, that they're able to kind of be a step ahead when they're out there on the field. And that's where I think this offensive line is going to look a lot different in terms of how much cohesion they have. Of course, one injury could blow all that up and you're starting over, but right now that left side in particular of Reisner and Bowles looks stronger than last year.
You've been impressed by the rookie, Dalton Reisner?
Completely impressed. I mean, I think Dalton Reisner, and I don't say this lightly, could be a Pro Bowler within 2 years.
Wow.
And I think you could see a scenario down the line where Quentin Nelson of Indianapolis and Dalton Reisner of the Broncos have the Pro Bowl AFC guard spots on lockdown for a while as they continue to develop. Nelson, of course, already an All-Pro in Indianapolis. I don't expect Reisner to be quite at that level in year one, but I think he'll be arguably the Broncos' best offensive lineman out there this season.
What have we seen from – what kind of impact has Reisner had on Bowles? We've talked so much about Munchak's impact on Bowles, but what kind of impact can Dalton have? Because we saw in the first preseason game, those stretch runs, those screen plays, they really like to use those two athletic guys out on the edge.
Yeah, they just work well together. To Dalton's credit, he's kind of reached out to Garrett Bowles. Bowles has reached back. We know about how the two of them were together at Reisner's draft party on that Friday night when he was picked in the second round, and it's just blossomed from there between the two of them. They're on the same page in a way that Garrett Bowles hasn't been on the same page with another offensive lineman in his previous 2 seasons. And if you can have that left flank settle with the two of them, get Garrett Bowles playing up a notch from the last couple of years, and so far he has. The big thing he's got to do is curtail the holding penalties when you get to the regular season. But if he can do that, then Bowles will start looking like a first-rounder, in part because Reisner's there to help him along.
We also saw the two of them hanging out together in Seattle, I think, with Reisner's dad. So pretty cool bond that those two are forming right there. As practice going through right now, they're going through the individual period before team sessions get started here. This is the second to last practice open to the fans. So if you want to see this Denver Broncos team up close and personal, make sure you come out to practice tomorrow at 9:15. We'll be back here live again tomorrow at 9:15. Then the guys have a day off Wednesday, an afternoon practice on Thursday before the 49ers come to town. Let's wrap things up here. What do you want to see them get done these next 2 days before the 49ers get here?
I want to see the young quarterbacks lock and rip and continue to improve. I saw yesterday that they were on point, especially in that early team period. I'd like to see how many reps both Rippon and Locke get here as we move towards joint practices.
Maybe an end to the miscommunication issues. You had a miscommunication, mistiming issue when Drew Lock was out there with the twos on that move of the ball period at the end of practice that led to an interception. Just clean those up.
So shore up a few little things here before the 49ers come to town. That is going to do it for us here on day 16 of training camp. Our thanks to Steve Atwater, Eric Dalala for coming on the show. And for Andrew Mason, Matt Boyer, I'm Phil Milani. This has been Broncos Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford.